Our final guest in this series of fireside chats, as we're calling them, is Claire Aiken. And maybe I might just ask Claire to do a quick intro to herself and what she does.
Okay. Well, I suppose, first of all, the photograph, it was taken about 15 years ago. Mine, Claire Aiken, I run a PR company across the island of Ireland. Our clients are Diageo, ESB, the Government Climate Council Advisory. And then locally, I look after the Casement Park project with Brian and the guys, the Ulster GAA. Been working on it now for at least 14 years. We're still very committed to it, and the local community is very committed to it, and that's a big part of the comms around it, how we got the community to buy into the project and how it was relevant to them. From a personal point of view, I'm a mum of 5. I have a daughter with an All-Ireland medal. I have 2 sons on the senior Antrim panel. My dad played Gaelic. He also brought concerts here to Croke Park in 1974, Neil Diamond. And I remember at home when that was first mooted, it wasn't for everybody. And it was, why were other things happening at this sacred ground? But how life changes, and that's very much like comms, how much has changed as well, and for counties, how it'll change. My brother continues in Park Keeve, Mullen Park and Croke Park to bring concerts. So it's changed times, but they're good times, and the GAA is in a good place. And I was talking earlier to one of our county officials, about 10 years ago, around West Belfast, Lower Falls, Andersonstown, St Paul's, there were an awful lot of Man United tops. Now it's all changed. There's fibrous tops everywhere. There's kids, they want them for their Christmas boxes. They're running around in them. They're proud to be, seen with the Gaelic community. And that's very much where I think the comms all comes in. Okay. It's a different, I mean, Charlotte alluded to it, it's a different world. Comms is huge. It's a huge beast to feed. And, I think traditionally the GAA was very much PRO, and it was about matches and it was about results. I mean, those days have gone, and I think a sign of that is that Congress is bringing forward a change of the roles, and it's going to be a communications officer and a digital officer, and that gives every county then the wherewithal and the impetus to look for volunteers in those areas and back them.
Again, I'm very mindful of the audience here. We're dealing with county offices.
Yeah.
What's the most important elements of a county's story that they should be seeking to communicate?
Well, all the counties will have their own strategy of what they want to be, their future vision of what they want out of their county, across all the codes, across culture. You take that and then you filter that down to your comms strategy. But that's all very well having strategies. I mean, everybody has strategies. It's actually doing it. So you've got to back your comms team. So I'd say traditionally, there's not a comms team. There's a PRO. You need to look at that differently. You have what we call in our industry is you've owned, earned, and borrowed. So your own channels are your websites, your WhatsApp groups, your Facebooks, and all of that. You need that fed, and you need it fed constantly. And what is it you want to say to people? Do you want to get them to the matches? Do you want to get them to be volunteers? What is it you want? You have to be very defined in your message. Then you have the earned. That's like your local newspapers, your radio stations, the national papers, the national radio stations. And then you have your borrowed, which are your sponsors' websites, your partnership websites, how you feed in your story through there. So that's 3 different channels that one person has to look after all that content. They can't do it. They need support. And that support could be, and that's where one thing I really do think is, because it's all a digital space now, you can get the younger volunteers through because they do understand it. And when I'm younger, I mean, not people that just post all the time, that they know when to post, what the visuals need to look like, what's of interest, because it's not one size fits all. But, wouldn't it be great to get younger volunteers onto the committees? And that's for the future of the clubs, but this is a role that they can really take. But you've got to back them, and what I mean by back them is, if they know what they're doing and you sign off on the comm strategy, let them deliver it. Now, when it comes to a crisis, it's a whole different thing, but just the day-to-day, what is it that's going to make your county stand up? I mean, I do think that the leadership of Jarlath has given us all, his outward leadership has given us all a bit of an impetus to stand up taller. And, everybody wants their county to do well on the pitch, of course, But, you know, what about just generally the county, people to be proud of their county, to bring all that back in? You've got sponsors, you know, beautiful ads on TV and everything talking about it, but how are you actually doing it in your county? And it's, you know, each county is unique. Antrim's unique. It's a huge county with country clubs, with city clubs. You know, what's unique to us? And that's the kind of comms we have to deliver. So I think you've just, don't look over your shoulder what other counties are doing. What's right for your county?
You mentioned what Gareth was talking earlier on about leadership, talk about change. How do we best communicate? And I'm going to use the term planned change. You know, how do we structure ourselves best to do that one?
Well, I mean, I don't know an awful lot about hurling, but from a football perspective, the new rules coming, okay, and they're going to start next week. I mean, that is what a jump-off point to be able to talk about your county. You know, Antrim are against Clare next week, and it's a home game. What a gift. So it's to talk, what is the changes going to mean? Why come and see the matches? You know, it's that type of, and all those tools are there because the committee under Jim Galvin, they have all the toolkit there of how to communicate locally. It's sitting there, so use it. You know, but you need a plan. You need to go, when do we need to have this? When does a local paper, you know, what stories could we give them? When do we need to give them? What photographs have we got? Everything lined up, social, everything like that. You know, you can't all do it on the day off or the day before. You need to plan. And that's where you need to give your comms person the space and the time. And if they need training, you know, buy into it. There's a workshop this afternoon with Padraig. You know, I really encourage you to go to it. And if you feel it appropriate, invite Padraig to your county to talk about how individually you can develop your plan. It's all about plan and having the resources, you know, the photographs, the visuals, the videos and everything to go. And I do think ambassadors. So who in your county is a good speaker? They mightn't be the top player, but who's a good speaker, who can talk about the rules, who can talk about, you know, what it means to the team, what's the atmosphere like in the dressing room, what's the training been like, just to build excitement about what it's like. I've been to a couple of matches, and it is a game changer. I mean, it's so exciting, but I wouldn't like to be a player because it's up and down that pitch. It really is. It's great, but they're bucked after it now, for sure. But, you know, get somebody to talk about it, what the difference it's going to make to them, the excitement in the dressing room, just to start to build it, you know what I mean? But we have a great story, a very live story, so use it in the county.
Yeah. You touched on there a couple of minutes ago on the fact that it's not all controllable. No. Crisis happens, you know, and we've seen that recently, you know, it will happen. How do we deal with that, particularly in this digital age where news literally spreads uncontrollably?
Yeah. What we advise our clients to do anyway, we have a traffic light system where you decide what is green, red, or green, orange, and red. So, like, what can be dealt with locally? Like, if something awful happens or something, injuries on the pitch, or the pitch is closed, or, you know, something falls down on the pitch, something that's very local, you keep it there and you manage it yourselves. Then, when something becomes escalated, you know, who do you bring in to support? And then when it's like a serious incident where there's risk to life or something serious has happened on the pitch, you have to have an incident a response team. And I don't know if counties do have that, but from a comms point of view, you should have 3 people, 4 max, that if something really bad, they're the people that lead it all. They're the people that make the decisions. They may talk to others, but the control stays with them, because if you try to manage a crisis by committee, it won't work. It'll just be too many voices, and you will be distracted talking to yourselves rather than managing the incident. So if you have this rapid response team that are there to advise you, and, you know, choose people that are calm, because that's the other thing. You get distracted. People can get really distracted about what they hear elsewhere. What is it you want people to know? Is it a holding statement? If it's something really awful that has happened, make sure that you're looking after the person that it's impacted on. Don't put anything on social media or anywhere that Jigsaw identifies who it's happened to. So you have to be very careful, and you have to look after the person and their family first. Nothing should go anywhere without talking to the family. Do you know what I mean? Nobody should find out anything on social media that such and such was involved in an accident. That should all be handled family first. If it is something to do with a player or anything that happened on the pitch, you have to let people know You know, you can imagine if it was an away game, something happened and somebody heard something on radio, but they hadn't been informed. So just be very mindful when you're managing it, that you pause rather than react to all the noise around social. I mean, social is a nightmare. It is for sure. But what's right to do by your county, not by the media? You know, we often say to our clients, don't be distracted by the media. Give a holding statement that an incident has happened and that you will revert. That's enough. That buys you time to be able then to find out what's happened and what you can talk to. Talk to the authorities. They're very good. Like anything, PSNI, the guards, they will help you if it's a really serious incident on what to do. And they might take that comms from you and say, we'll manage this for you. But just pause if anything serious happens, and don't respond to social media because you feel, this is running away from us. Put out a holding statement, gather the facts, and then slowly decide what you want to do with the guidance of your incident response team. But it is tricky. I mean, lean on people, really do lean on people. I don't know if there's any lawyers in the room. Sometimes lawyers will tell you, say nothing. I don't know if I wouldn't advise that. You can always say something as in, we confirm an incident happened and we will be updating later. I think not responding or saying there's no comment, there's a lot in a no comment.
You spoke about the social media disaster. You know, the removal of moderation on key online platforms, you know, even in the last couple of weeks. The whole misinformation, disinformation. Can you maybe just give us back to how you deal with that?
Okay.
Or do you?
Yeah, there's two things, right? I think every county should have a rebuttal strategy. Like, what line will you not allow others to say about you, if you know what I mean? Like, have your facts and figures, the number of players you have, the number of pitches you have, the number of officials you have. Say, for example, come out and said that Cavan have 30 officials and they're all away on an away day. If you only have 15, then you rebut that because that's a solid fact. So, do you know what I mean? So, have the facts and figures about your county, that if something is incorrectly reported, you can just pick, you know, I'm not for picking up to an editor and giving out. You just go, do you know what, guys, that's wrong. We don't have that. You know, we have this. I can verify that and just get it corrected. You know, don't go on, you know, combative. It doesn't work because everybody gets their back up. But then there are other things that are online and you can't change it. Let it go, guys. There's more important things. And what I mean by more important things is, you know, start getting out other things that are happening in your county and it'll drown it out. The people will always talk and always want to be negative and, oh, you're not doing this and you're not doing that. You would spend forever doing that, and that's not what being a volunteer in the GAA is. It's talking about the games, it's talking about the players, it's talking about the culture, it's talking about all the good things that happen in the county. So you drown it out by putting out more content. And more content is if you have a comms team, if you like, which is your comms officer and your digital officer. So you have people there creating content. So that's the balance, because you can't fight everything, but you can fight fundamental facts. And you should. You should. You know, you just pick up on it. You don't go aggressive. You just pick up and say, look, that is incorrect. Our team weren't playing on that ground. They were playing somewhere else. And then you're trusted to the media. The media know, look, these guys know what they're talking about. They know that the facts and figures of their county. If I need to check something, these guys know, rather than, you know, fighting every single thing.
Can I move you on to, we were talking to Simon, obviously, earlier on. And there's a lot in what Simon has produced. I mean, there's a lot of data. You could even hear it in some of his answers, a lot of, you know, I suppose economic data in it and so on, and information. How do we best utilise that one from a communication perspective? How do we sell this as a good story?
Yeah, it is. It's fantastic, and it's brilliant to have it. I even know, like, from a Casement Park point of view, it's great for us to have that other level of, you know, qualified data. And that is the other thing about comms. You know, you have this information, you need to package it. So, like, it's infographics, it's visuals about the contribution, it's broken down by counties. You know, when you actually read the report, it's phenomenal what the GAA does. And I think for a while, maybe were we just a bit reluctant to talk about how great we were because it was all about what's happening on the pitch and the players and everything like that. It's bigger than that, if you like. There's a lot coming down the line between the new rules for football, the hurling, and the integration. I mean, they're huge stories, and we are a huge force in Ireland. And I think And again, it's back to Jarlath's leadership. We all, I think, can walk a little bit taller because we have information now.
Yeah. I mean, you've referenced there the clinics, the football, hurling,
Yeah.
you know, the integration down the road. But in terms of, there's a lot of messages there. How do we prioritise that message? How do you, like a county chairman sitting there going, you know, how do I get this out? Because if I put it out, it's a jumble.
Yeah. So I think that is a big thing, and any county officials I've spoken to, it's overwhelming the amount of stuff now, you know, because it's not just about the matches. So your strategy, whatever strategy you have, there should be a comm strategy out of it. And that comm strategy is your absolute roadmap. I know these are all jargon words, but that is your roadmap of what you're going to talk about. So, you know, in Antrim, it's about community, because we have the 2 codes. We also have, you know, country and city clubs. So it's Antrim, it's about a community and how you belong and how you participate. So that's one of our pillars, if you like, for our comms. So that's what we will speak to. So, you know, you have the new football rules. You have to explain those. So that's something that is must be on your comms plan. But then, what is it that's particular to your county that you want your county people to know? And you stick with that message. You can't. But you're the same as any organisation. You could be distracted talking about, you know, sustainability or, you know, all sorts of things. But if that's not a core message in your overall strategy, then it's not something that you should be spending an awful lot of resources on. You know, commit to your plan and back your team to deliver it.
Okay. You've spoken a lot about the team within, the team outside, the people we need to connect with outside, the partners. Can you maybe talk to us a bit about how important those are and how we utilise those or engage with those?
Yeah. So quite often we would be the partner that would be partnering with or we as in our clients would be partnering with the GAA. So your partners will also have a comms team. So you can lean into them and you can work together collaboratively. So if you think, for example, Ulster University in the north, Antrim are doing some work with them. So working with their comms team to talk about the message, talk about what you're doing, especially in health and well-being. So that's kind of taken it out of the back pages of the newspapers or the sports sections of the radio and bringing it into general media. And that's where you can talk in that space, which maybe you hadn't been doing, but talk about how do you look after the health and well-being of players, of volunteers, of people that are, you know, giving so much of their own personal time, what's in place, and then partners can listen to that and think how they could bring that in to their workplace. You know, you think about any of the big organisations like ESB, huge volunteer segment of their people strategy. So, like the GAA can come into the ESB, talk about what they do. ESB come into the GAA, and I mean your counties, and talk to your county people about how they connect. So it's learning from each other and seeing it as a partnership rather than this is something they give us money for or this is something they do for us. It's more, how can we work together?
I was at a workshop last night. Sean Michael O'Regan, former chairman in Waterford and chair of the National Infrastructure Committee, was presenting about the role of a chair, and he described the role as basically managing fires. It's just a question of how big the fire is. Is it a small fire, a medium fire, or a very large fire? And basically that you're always in that situation of trying to deal with something. It's just a case question of how big or small that is. How do you actually manage that while also keeping your eye on the prize, on the big change or the big, we want to develop a county grounds or a centre of excellence or whatever the game. How do you balance that the day-to-day and the strategic?
Yeah. Okay, the day-to-day, and it's back to your comms person having a plan, okay? And that could be like this month, this is what we're doing, okay? And you see other people come in and say, oh, I think we should be doing that. No, this is what we're doing. This is where we're putting our resources. So, like for next week, the county panels start again. In a couple of weeks' time, the clubs all start again. Is that the focus? Well, that's what we stay on the focus, if you know what I mean. Then Congress is coming up. How do we want to talk to all our members about Congress? How do we get people involved in something like that that really is where change comes for the whole of the games, rather than that's something that the officials do, but it's not something that the members do. So should that be on the plan, the comms plan, if you like? And then the bigger things will always be on, okay? So you have a plan, like this week it's all about the football, then it's all about the club starting again. But it's not about other things. So, you have to back your comms plan, and you have to resource it. But I think it is a big change. I think it is, the accounts are, the finance committees working well, the people, the matches, the player welfare. Are you putting the same time and effort into your comms? Because without being able to tell people what all you're doing, you're not going to have all the others. So you need to really raise your commitment to comms on your monthly agendas. What are we delivering, what worked, what didn't work. And a big thing, and we're all poor at this, is what didn't work. Just capture the things like, do you know what? Podcasts aren't working for our county, okay? For whatever reason. We're not saying we won't do them, but just for the moment, they're not working. Let's keep it on the agenda, but maybe not throw everything at a podcast, because it's just not something that our county want. Or else, podcasts is where we want to go, so we're going to put effort into it. But you've got to back your comms subcommittee, and I'd suggest you all get a subcommittee for comms, which should have digital, which should have a crisis management, and should have day-to-day media.
Claire, you've been on Quilta Bonachlí now for the last year or so. Mm-hmm. And obviously you've worked closely, you've met with Alan Milton and the team up here in Croke Park. Are we doing enough to support our officers? And what other supports should we be giving our officers?
I think the big game changer, and I know it's a word that Charles used earlier, but from a comms point of view, is changing it from PRO to a comms officer and a digital officer. That commitment that's going before Congress, I think will change it for counties, because you will have to do it, you'll want to do it. I think everybody in the room knows that you have to communicate more, and you have to tell more about your players, your members, your volunteers, your culture of your club, the culture events that are happening. So that commitment is there from the leadership. It's going before Congress. I think it's now over to counties to take it on board and deliver it. As in, let's appoint a comms person. Let's go out to our membership and see, who. And from a comms point of view, you don't need to know an awful lot about football or hurling, if you know what I mean. You need to know how to communicate. And you need to know who you can communicate. It's huge out there. I mean, there's so much media, and there's so much segments of the media. So there's the back pages, but there's always also the front pages. So how are you going to target that? Ultimately, to get people to come and see all the matches.
Claire, thank you so much for that. I just could again do a further plug for a workshop later on. I've done the same with GAALearning and with Simon. We have a workshop later on in marketing and promoting our games, led by Pádraig McKeown, who's PRO in Sligo, and a member of the GAA's communications working group. So again, I would encourage you, particularly the PROs, maybe should attend that one. Claire, thank you very much for your words of wisdom.
Thank you. Thank you.